I'm betting you've never fired a real bullet in your life, baby. The drill instructor smirked as Claire stepped forward. A few recruits laughed, one mockingly bowed. She didn't react, just moved calm and exact like she'd rehearsed this 1,000 times. She reached the line, adjusted the rifle. Silence. Not hesitation, something colder. Someone behind muttered, "She thinks this is yoga, or what?" She shifted her stance. Her shirt lifted slightly. A tattoo black snake coiled around a bullet. No one noticed, except Colonel Reese. He'd been walking past mid-step but froze, eyes locked, his breath caught. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared pale, like he'd seen a ghost. Claire never sat with the others. While recruits joked over dinner trays, she sat outside back against the wall watching shadows move across the fence. She never spoke unless spoken to. Even then, short, quiet, precise. No one saw her check her phone. No photos, no calls. No one knew where she came from. Her file was thin, too thin. Each morning she was already at the range when the lights turned on, cleaning rifles. Not just hers, everyone's. Even the ones who laughed at her. One recruit found his scope realigned. Thought it was luck. Another noticed their trigger pull felt smoother. No one asked why. When the instructor barked orders, she moved before the sentence ended. Never late, never loud, but the strangest thing. She never fired, not once. She only watched. Tracked wind, measured angles, took notes. Someone joked, "She's afraid of the recoil." She didn't answer, just looked at the trees and whispered, "Recoil's not the part I fear." Someone found her notebook once. It was left on the bench, leather-bound, worn at the edges. No name, no decoration. Inside, no diary entries, no emotions, just sketches, wind patterns, range maps, kill zones marked in red. Each page numbered like a log. Last page said, Entry 441. One recruit flipped through it and muttered, "Damn, this ain't training. This is combat." That night, Claire sat alone at the far end of the range. No rifle, no gear, just her eyes scanning the tree line. She watched the leaves shift, listened to the gravel crunch 2 lanes away. Someone approached from behind and asked, "Why don't you ever shoot?" She didn't turn around, just ran a finger along the edge of the shooting table. "'Cause when I used to..." I didn't stop until it was over. Then she stood, and walked away, leaving only the echo of her boots and a silence no one wanted to fill. They made her go first. Live fire drill. 1 shot, 1 target, no retrees. The instructor tossed the list aside. Clare Morgan. Step up? A few recruits exchanged smirks. One said under his breath, "Guess we'll see if she even knows where the trigger is." Claire didn't flinch. Just walked to the bench, same calm pace. Checked the rifle, adjusted the bipod, glanced at the wind flag. No wasted motion. She lay prone, hands steady, and for a moment everything felt wrong. Too practiced, too clean. The range officer leaned in. Joking, "Need help with safety mode." "Sweetheart?" She didn't answer. Just slid the bolt open, wiped the chamber with a cloth from her sleeve. As she moved, her shirt lifted slightly. This time, 3 people saw it. The snake, the bullet. Snake B-13. No one said anything, but the air changed. Like the heat dropped. Colonel Reese, watching from a distance, lowered his binoculars. His hand trembled slightly. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. Just stared at her back like he was trying to remember something he'd buried a long time ago. The shot hadn't even been fired, but no one was laughing anymore. Claire adjusted her cheek weld, slow, methodical. The kind of motion that doesn't come from training manuals but from memory, muscle deep. The instructor opened his mouth to speak, then stopped, like something caught in his throat. Someone whispered, "What's snake B-13?" No one answered, but Colonel Reese was already moving, quietly, toward the control tower, phone in hand. Inside the base, an old quartermaster stared at a dusty clipboard. His eyes locked on Claire's name. He muttered, "She wasn't supposed to come back." Back at the range, Claire's finger hovered above the trigger. She hadn't moved in 40 seconds. Not a twitch, not a breath. And then she stood up, unfired, unshaken, turned to the instructor. "This isn't the time yet," and walked off the line, leaving the rifle cleaner than it had been when she arrived. No one stopped her. Even the wind seemed unsure what to do. No one spoke to her that night. She sat alone on the barracks steps, boots off elbows on her knees, watching fog roll over the field. Inside, whispers started. "What's B-13 mean?" "Is that real?" Colonel Reese looked like he'd seen a damn ghost. No answers, just tension. At 02:17 a.m., someone entered the archives room. Old records, red-stamped files, most marked decommissioned. One folder, barely legible, read, "Obsidian Ghost. Unit B-13. Status, lost." The soldier who opened it stood still for a long time. Inside, 12 names. One was crossed out. The last line, "Final transmission, operator still active." Back in the yard, Claire hadn't moved. Eyes open, breathing slow. A moth landed on her boot. She didn't blink. Morning came. No one laughed at breakfast. Claire sat at the edge of the mess hall, untouched tray, sipping water like she had nowhere to be, but was already there. A few recruits glanced her way, then looked away. One whispered, "She hasn't said a full sentence in a week." Another answered, "But she's cleaned my rifle." 3 times. By noon, everyone noticed. Their gear had fewer jams. Their scopes were tighter. Even the recoil felt softer. And still, Claire spoke to no one. She passed one recruit in the hallway. He flinched. Not because she looked at him, because she didn't. That afternoon, Sergeant Mills found her kneeling beside the supply crate, checking inventory line by line. "Why are you doing that?" he asked. She didn't look up, didn't pause, just said, "Someone should," and kept writing. No one had ever seen her type a passcode. Doors opened for her anyway. She never asked where things were. She always knew. When the new comms locker was installed, Claire was the first to report the encryption was 2 digits off, before tech even ran diagnostics. Private Dawson, the loudest in the group, swore he saw her reroute a jammed radio line in under 10 seconds. "She doesn't even have clearance for that," he said. Reese overheard. Didn't correct him, didn't speak. He just watched Claire walk across the courtyard, shoulders relaxed, eyes scanning windows, rooftops, exit points. Not paranoid. Prepared. Later that night, someone finally asked her, "Where'd you learn to move like that?" Claire glanced sideways, eyes unreadable. Then back to the map. In a place where standing still got people killed. Nothing more. They checked her file again. It said, "Enlisted 7 weeks ago." No prior military, no combat time, blank. But her boots told a different story, broken and faded just enough. Her calluses were wrong for a beginner. Too deep. Too old. Reese stood in his office, staring at her enlistment form. He tapped the desk once slow. No one walks like that without 15 years under them. Meanwhile, Claire was outside alone on the gravel walking drills. Measured steps. Turn. Kneel. Shoulder. Breathe. Reset. Again. Again. Someone watched from the tower. "She's not practicing," they said. "She's remembering." Inside the barracks, a young recruit opened her locker while cleaning duty. No photos. No notes. Just one thing, folded neatly. A black cloth patch. No name. No insignia. Only a faded symbol. A snake coiled around a single bullet. The colonel didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in the operations room, lights off, watching old grainy footage play on loop. Helmet cams. Fragments of a mission nobody mentioned anymore. Hill 47. Dust storms. Dead comms. 17 confirmed hostiles. The mission report said no survivors. But one frame paused. A shadow in a tower, holding still. Too still. Reese leaned in. Squinted. A glint. Not sunlight, a scope. Watching. Waiting. He froze the image again. Zoomed. A hand, a glove, a tattoo. Back at the barracks, Claire lay on her bunk, eyes open, unfocused. Her fingers moved slowly over her ribs, not scratching, not thinking, just tracing something invisible. Outside, a flag snapped once in the wind. She blinked, turned her face to the wall, and whispered, "I told them 17. They only believed in one. Claire stood at the far end of the range alone. No rifle, no gear. Just the outline of her boots pressed into the gravel like she'd been rooted there for hours. A recruit passed by, paused, and watched her. She was staring downrange, but not at the targets. Through them. Beyond. Did she lose something, the recruit asked? Someone answered. She's not looking for anything. She's remembering. Claire inhaled slow, steady. Her shoulder rolled like bracing for recoil. Then her hand moved. Invisible rifle, invisible scope. She traced the motion, exactly set, aim, track, squeeze. Pause. Then again, and again. 12 times. Then she stopped. Fingers hovered in the air. One last shot. This time her hand trembled. Just a little. She lowered it slowly, turned, and walked away without a word. But in the sand beneath her boots, 13 prints. Each step deeper than the last. Training shifted. Not officially. No orders changed. But something in the air did. Recruits spoke softer now. Laughed less. When Claire entered the room, conversation stopped not out of respect, but caution. Like her silence might echo too loud. Even Dawson, the loudmouth, started cleaning his own weapon. Twice. Someone said, "She's not here to train." Another replied, "She's here to see who cracks first." Claire never commented, never interrupted. But every time someone failed a drill, she was already there resetting the equipment before the instructor could. And once, when a young recruit forgot to lock the bolt, Claire didn't scold him. She simply looked at him. A long, calm, quiet look. He didn't forget again. Later that evening, someone found a folded paper left on the shooting table. It wasn't signed. It just read, "You're better than this," or "You won't be around long enough to prove it." They called her again. Live round. New target. This time, wind distance movement. A harder test, a real one. No one mocked her. No one spoke. Claire stepped forward same pace as before. No drama, no flexing, just motion, clean, precise. She lay prone. Checked wind with a torn strip of gauze. No tools, no sensors, just instinct. Then she adjusted the scope, 2 clicks left. One recruit leaned to another. Targets center right. Y aim off. No answer. Only the quiet sound of breath held across the line. Claire exhaled. Slowly. Pulled the trigger. Crack. The target jolted, but didn't fall. Then split. Right down the center. A diagonal cut, clean as paper. Wind carried the pieces backward, fluttering like feathers. Someone whispered, "That wasn't luck." Claire stood, dusted her knees, returned the rifle to its case. Didn't smile. Didn't look back. As she walked past the instructor, he asked quietly, "Where'd you learn that shot?" She paused. "Just once. One place taught me wind. The other, regret." And she kept walking. They stopped calling her new girl. No one said it out loud, but something had shifted. In the hallway, people stepped aside. At meals, her seat stayed open, untouched. Not by order, by choice. She still never raised her voice. But when a rifle jammed during reload drills, it was Claire who stepped in, cleared it in 4 seconds, handed it back. The recruit nodded. She didn't. At night, her bunk light glowed longer than anyone else's. Not reading, not writing, just awake. Eyes open. Staring at the ceiling like it might answer something. Sergeant Mills watched her from across the yard once. Said quietly to the colonel, "She doesn't act like someone trying to prove anything." Reese didn't blink. Because she's not. She already has. Somewhere else. Then he turned away and said nothing more. The projector jammed during the tactics briefing. Tech tried to reset the feed screen, glitched once, twice, then flashed open files for half a second. Enough? Just long enough. A folder. Red stamp. Operation Red Sentry. Below it, Unit B-13. Status erased. Someone caught it. Someone always does. By the time the projector flicked back, the room had shifted. No one said her name, but a few heads turned toward the back row, where Claire sat, arms crossed, still, watching the screen, like she'd seen it before. After the briefing, no one left right away. Colonel Reese remained seated, staring into the now blank screen, then stood, walked out without a word. Behind him, Sergeant Mills asked, "You think it's her?" Reese paused at the door, didn't turn around. "No, a beat. I think she's the last one." Colonel Reese locked his office door, pulled an old case from beneath the floorboard, one he hadn't touched in 13 years. Inside, a faded map, a blood-stained armband, a photo. 12 soldiers, dust-covered, smiling. One of them, a young man barely 20, stood next to a blurred figure in shadow. No name, just the edge of a rifle, and a black tattoo barely visible under the sleeve. He remembered the sound first, not gunfire breathing, shallow, focused, counting seconds between shots. Hill, 47. He'd been pinned behind a crumbling wall radio, dead, bleeding from the head, watching time bleed out with him. Then one shot. A man dropped, another, then 3 more, until there was silence. He never saw who saved him, only remembered a figure up high in the tower, never moving. He leaned back in the chair now, eyes closed. "She was there," he whispered, "and we left her." He found her at the range. Sun low, targets still swinging from earlier drills. Claire stood beside a bench, cleaning a rifle that wasn't hers. Didn't look up. Reese walked slowly. Stopped 3 paces behind. Hill, 47. She didn't answer, didn't move, just kept wiping the bolt steady like she hadn't heard. But her breath just once caught half a second longer than usual. "I never knew who you were," Reese said. Silence. Then Claire slid the bolt back into the chamber. Locked it, set the rifle down. "You weren't supposed to." Reese stepped closer, voice lower. "I thought we were all dead." "You were, just not fast enough." She turned to face him, calm, eyes steady. No accusation, no pride. "You had a head wound, 4th floor. Window to the east. You checked your mag 17 times. Reese's hands dropped to his sides, shaking now. I tried to call for backup." Claire nodded. "Radio was fried. I heard you talking to no one." Claire sat down slowly on the edge of the bench. Reese remained standing as if sitting would admit something. She spoke without looking at him. 17 hostiles. Intel said 1. "We walked into a kill box." She stared, downrange voice flat. "First 2 went down fast. The 3rd almost got Cole. 4th hit Bailey through the vest. Pause, inhale, exhale. I took out 11. Never moved more than my finger." Reese swallowed hard. "And the last 6. Claire blinked slow. "By then, they had us pinned. Radio down, air support blind. Only 1 position left with range clock tower. You climbed it alone." "Didn't climb. I was already there, covering them." Silence. Reese stepped closer. "You saved me." Claire shook her head. "No." She looked at him now, eyes heavy. "I saved shot number 473. The others I just fired too late." Reese's hands dropped to his sides, shaking now. I thought I was alone." Claire looked at him quiet. "You weren't." She turned away, paused. "But I was." Claire didn't speak right away. She just rolled up her sleeve slow, like unwrapping something that shouldn't be seen in daylight. The tattoo looked simple. A black snake wrapped around a bullet. Below it, B-13. Reese exhaled like the number punched air out of his lungs. "That your unit?" Claire shook her head. "That's not who I was with. That's who I couldn't bring back." She didn't cry, didn't look proud, just touched the ink like it still hurt to remember. They all had names. I just turned them into a number, because saying them out loud hurts worse than silence. She rolled her sleeve down, not to hide it, just to let it rest. Reese didn't reply, just watched her sleeve fall back down. Claire stood there a second longer, then stepped away. Her footsteps didn't echo, but something stayed. The next morning, Claire was first at the range. Not unusual, but something was different. She wasn't alone. 3 recruits had shown up earlier than ever. No jokes, no noise, just silence waiting. Claire didn't say a word, just set down her own rifle, and picked up theirs, checked sights, adjusted scopes, nodded once, then stepped back. They understood. Later that day, Sergeant Mills noticed the rotation board had been edited. Claire's name was no longer under active trainee. It had been moved to field advisor, non-official. No one knew who made the change. No one questioned it. That afternoon, she handed Dawson a folded slip of paper. He opened it. 4 lines, bullet points, correction, wind, stance, and at the bottom, learn to miss for the right reasons. He looked up, but she was already gone. The range was set, targets up, wind steady, live ammo loaded, but Claire stood in front of the line arms folded. Today, no one fires. Confused glances, a few murmurs. Dawson raised a hand. But it's live fire day. Claire nodded. Exactly. She pointed down range. Now, choose which one shouldn't die. No one moved. The targets were human-shaped. Some wore fake vests, others held toy weapons. A few held nothing. "You've got 10 seconds," she said. "Decide." Recruits looked at each other. At the field, no trigger pulled, no command given. Only heartbeat, only doubt. After 10 seconds, Claire walked the line, stopped in front of one. "Why didn't you shoot?" The recruit hesitated. "I wasn't sure." Claire nodded. "Good." She turned to the rest. "If you're not sure, don't ever be the one who pulls first." The next day they ran the drill again. Same setup, same silence. But this time, someone fired. One sharp shot, target down. The echo cut the air like glass. Claire turned slowly. It was Patterson, nervous, breathing hard, finger still near the trigger. He looked around unsure. "It looked like a weapon," he muttered. I thought Claire walked toward him, didn't speak, didn't shout. She stopped in front of the fallen target, bent down, picked something up, a book, plastic scuffed, still intact. She walked back, placed it gently in Patterson's hand. "You just killed a teacher." Patterson opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Claire didn't wait. She walked past him, past the others, straight off the range. No words, no punishment. Just that silence again. Worse than yelling, worse than anything. She was cleaning the same rifle, same spot, same cloth, as if time hadn't moved. Patterson stood there for almost a full minute before speaking. "I was wrong." Claire didn't look up. "Which part?" "All of it. How I saw you, how I saw myself." She kept wiping. "You pulled the trigger. Yeah, too fast, too proud." Another pause. "I don't want to be that guy." Finally, Claire looked at him. Not angry, not disappointed, just tired. "Then stop trying to prove you're ready to shoot." He nodded, unsure what else to say. Claire stood, handed him the cleaning cloth. "Start here. Learn to take care of the weapon before you trust yourself to use it." And just like that, she walked away, leaving Patterson alone, holding a rifle he thought he understood and a cloth that suddenly felt heavier than steel. They didn't expect her to speak, not in front of everyone, not standing where instructors usually stand, but that morning she was there, waiting. When the last recruit sat, she looked across the room. "You think this is about shooting?" No one answered. She stepped forward. "It's not. It's about the weight behind the shot, the face behind the target, the voice you won't forget." She paused. No notes, no rank, just her. "When I was your age, I thought being a sniper meant being sharp, quick, precise." Her eyes met Patterson's. "But the ones who make it back aren't the fastest. They're the ones who waited." Another pause. "Before you ever pull a trigger, ask yourself one thing. Who are you protecting? And then nothing more." She walked out, leaving behind 20 silent recruits and one question no one was ready to answer out loud. She packed at dawn, one small duffel, no gear from the base, only her own, no announcement, no ceremony, just boots on gravel steady as always. By the time the rest of the barracks stirred, her bunk was empty. Sheets folded, locker open. Sergeant Mills found a folded cloth on her bed. Inside, an M24 rifle cleaned to a mirror shine. Beside it, a single note, no further training needed. Just remember why you pick it up. He didn't say anything. Didn't move for a long time. In the firing range, the younger recruits gathered around her usual lane. Patterson set down a small wooden frame. Inside a photo someone had taken blurry but unmistakable Clare, mid-cleaning eyes down, focused. Below it, they wrote in chalk obsidian Ghost never spoke loud. But when they fired, no one forgot. They found the envelopes that afternoon. 20 of them. Unlabeled on the outside. But somehow, each recruit knew which one was theirs. Inside notes, handwritten, no fluff, no signature, just lines like scalpel cuts. Dawson's read, "You close your left eye too early. Stop rushing the first second. That's where mistakes happen." Patterson said, "You breathe in when aiming. Exhale first. Decide second. Fire third. Or don't." Even the quietest girl in the squad found hers. "You're more patient than you think. Let that be your weapon." Some had drills, some had warnings. All had truth. At the bottom of each the same line, "You're better than you think. Prove it." By evening the base was quieter than usual, not out of loss, but because everyone felt seen by someone who barely spoke and somehow knew them all. Weeks passed. New drills came. But something lingered. No one said her name during lessons. She wasn't listed on any attendance log, but her mark was everywhere. A recruit adjusted his sight mid-breath because of a sentence she left behind. Another stayed 5 seconds longer on overwatch because of how she once stared downrange. Sergeant Mills began quoting her notes without realizing. "Don't fire to prove. Fire to prevent." Colonel Reese changed nothing officially, but from that week on, every trainee got a final drill. Observe. Wait. Decide not to shoot. They called it ghost time, and if you failed it, you weren't ready. No one explained where it came from. They just passed it down. Along with a quiet phrase scratched onto the back wall of the firing range, "The most dangerous shot is the one you never hear." It was a quiet evening. The new recruits were finishing cleanup. Standard end-of-week routine. Until Colonel Reese walked in. No announcement, no clipboard, just his voice. "Gather around." They did. He held a photo, blurred black and white, a rooftop, a scope, a shadow. "Hill 47, he began. I was there. 6 hours under fire, radio dead, bleeding out. No one blinked. I counted 17 hostiles. I thought I was alone." He paused, looked at the photo. "I never saw her face, not then. Only saw the tattoo. Snake coiled around a bullet." He looked up now. "I owe my life to that shadow. And she walked this base just weeks ago. Cleaned your rifles, watched your hands, left you notes. You didn't recognize her. That's the point." He set the photo down. "Ghosts don't come to be seen. They come to make sure you leave alive." Silence. "Some of you already failed her test. Some of you still have time to pass it." Then he walked away. No applause, no salute. Just the weight of a story no one dared question. Rain came that night. Soft, steady. The kind that soaks without warning. The recruits stayed late cleaning gear. Someone noticed the shooting table had been wiped dry. No one had touched it. Underneath the rifle rack a folded cloth. Black, familiar. Patterson picked it up, unfolded it slowly. Inside a note. No name, no greeting. "You don't have to see me, you just have to be ready when I'm not there." Beside it, a bullet, polished. Marked with one thing. 473 no one spoke. But from that night on, every recruit checked their rifle twice before drills. Cleaned it like someone was watching, because maybe someone still was. Far out beyond the perimeter lights, a shadow paused at the tree line. Didn't move, didn't wave, then disappeared into the dark. They never put her name on the wall. No medal, no ceremony. But when new recruits asked about the legend, the one who came and left without a rank, Sergeant Mills would hand them a copy of the notes. Folded, annotated, still smelled faintly of oil and rain. He'd say, "She didn't come here to learn. She came here to see if we were worth saving." Some smiled. Most just grew quiet, because now they understood. Not every warrior shouts. Not every hero wears brass. And some of the best shots in the world are never fired, because they didn't need to be. And maybe, just maybe, the person you mocked, the one who cleaned your rifle, the one who sat alone, always listening, was the one who would have taken the shot so you didn't have to. So if you've ever been saved by someone you never thanked, maybe it's not too late. Just look around. They're probably still watching.